Sam Shaw here, founder of Wall Street Mastermind. I'm here today with another client interview for you guys. Today, I'm excited to have Isaac on with us, and I wanted to get him on here to talk to us about his recruiting process that he just finished. He's honestly had a very successful recruiting process, got a great outcome, but I'll let him talk about that himself. So Isaac, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today, man.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. Excited.
Can you maybe to start off, do you mind just introducing yourself a little bit, giving people a sense of kind of what your background is and what kind of candidate you are?
Yeah, so I'm a student at BYU. Just finished my sophomore year. I'm studying finance, and I don't know. I didn't really get interested into investment banking until like in January, just because a lot of people within my major were recruiting for that. So that's kind of what like drew me in with investment banking. But yeah, that was my story or my little background about me.
Okay, so that's January. To be clear, we're in May now of sophomore year. You got interested in banking 4 months ago, which is halfway through sophomore, and that was when the junior summer internship process had already started at a lot of these places. Right? Like January was when a bunch of applications started opening up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you decided very last minute, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what got you interested in banking at that time? Like, what were you originally planning on pursuing as a career, and then like, how did that suddenly change to banking, if you don't mind?
For sure. So I had a summer internship at PwC, and I was very set on accounting. That was like the trajectory I was trying to go for, like get my MAC, do my CPA exam. But I network a lot with the investment banking club at my school, and a lot of people like they were, at least the people that were recruiting for investment banking were planning to work on IPOs, work on these high profile deals. And like I just found it a lot more exciting than like auditing financial statements, or like second guessing or double checking some other accountants' work. So like I felt like I would have a bigger impact and difference as an investment banker than I would as an accountant.
Well, I think I can definitely agree with that, and I think most people agree with that. Nothing against audit, but I think banking is definitely a lot more fast paced and a lot more exciting. So I think you're absolutely correct there. So you mentioned the IB club. Are you in the IB club at school, or you just know people in the IB club?
Yeah, so BYU they have a investment banking club. So I got involved also like January. Everything I did investment banking started like mid-January.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what, like, prior to that then, I mean, you also joined Wall Street Mastermind in January, I think. So it was all around that same time. So it sounds like right when you decided you wanted to do banking, you basically just took massive action and went out and found all the resources you could possibly find that would help you get this job. Was that kind of the mentality?
Exactly. Yeah. Just use every single resource to the best of my ability and full steam ahead.
Yeah. Okay. And I know Justin was the one that enrolled you into our program. He mentioned that at the time you were also already involved with SEO. Is that right?
Yeah, I was involved with SEO.
Are they the ones that helped you get the PwC internship?
No, that was just on my own. BYU, they have a really good track record with accounting internships. So it was through my school.
Got it. Okay. How long, like, did you also join SEO in January, or were you already in SEO before that?
I was in SEO before. I think like late December I joined. So I wasn't there too long prior to joining Wall Street Mastermind.
Got it. Okay. So obviously, I'm curious, like, SEO is also technically a service that helps people find jobs with their careers, and I think they also help people place into banking sometimes. Not like they're not exclusively banking, but I think they also help some students place into banking as well. So given you were already in SEO, what made you want to further invest in a program like Wall Street Mastermind? Because a lot of students in your shoes, I feel like they might have just said, hey, I already have SEO, like I'm just gonna, save this money and like do something else with it. Right. But you clearly had a very different mentality or mindset around that. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, SEO is a great program. They opened a lot of doors for me, like moving my resume, established a lot of networking. I think the problem, or at least one deficit with SEO, is that they don't really go into as much detail when it comes to like the etiquette behind networking, or how to approach studying not just your technicals, but also like your behavioral questions, right? It was very like, like kind of cookie cutter 400 question guide. There's still good resources, but I feel like that was one of the elements that I needed to improve if I wanted to step up my game in investment banking recruiting. And that's one of the things that I felt Wall Street Mastermind supplemented, or at least had a really good, was a really good resource for me, is in helping me understand how to network effectively, how to approach studying for technicals quickly so that I could catch up with my peers.
Yeah.
My school.
Got it. Okay. So your mentality was, hey, I just realized I want to do banking. It's already January. All the other kids in the IB club, which they're basically, I mean, they're your friends, but they're also your primary competition, I suppose. A lot of them have probably been doing this since freshman year, and they're kind of ahead of the curve relative to where you're at. So your mentality is just, how can I accelerate my own preparation process as much as possible so that I can catch up at least, but hopefully even maybe surpass them. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So you came into Wall Street Mastermind. I mean, you were kind of alluding to this just now. You wanted kind of like more detailed help, or like more like just go deeper on all of these different areas like networking and technicals and behaviorals. So then, I mean, obviously it's one thing to be on the outside looking in and, looking at our website or maybe listening to some of our client interviews, or, like reading stuff online, doing your own research. People have a perception of what the program might be. And I'm sure you had an expectation for what this might be when you came in. And then you came in and now you're on the other side and you've gone through the program. Can you talk about what exactly you did in the program, or was it similar to what you expected, or was it different? And was it actually more detailed than, the help that you were already getting elsewhere, whether it's through SEO or the club on campus, or, whatever else you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my initial reaction to the program coming out was like, if I'm being extremely candid, I thought I was like, maybe this is a scam. Just because like, I don't know, I was very skeptical.
Sure.
But I remember
we get that a lot actually from students, because you guys probably read stuff on Wall Street Oasis or whatever, and then a bunch of people are saying it's a scam, even though they've never used the program, but they say it's a scam. It's hard to not be at least a little bit affected by that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But I remember like I still scheduled a strategy session because it was free. I was like, okay, that can't hurt. So I scheduled a strategy session with Justin. And I remember like that call, like he gave me a couple questions, super basic, like DCF or accounting questions, just to like measure where I was at. And I remember coming in the call, I was like, oh, I aced my accounting classes. I had an accounting internship. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty solid with the accounting aspect of the interviews, right? And I remember I completely failed super basic questions. Like even like walking through the 3 financial statements was like really hard for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I really suck at this. And so that's what kind of like was a reality check with me. Like I needed to like have a approach as to like how to study these technicals. And I think within modules, it was very helpful to like categorize it within 4 sections, right? The accounting, valuation, M&A, LBO. And like the way that's structured was very helpful for me, is at least when it came to studying for the technicals.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. So I guess just to kind of finish that thought for a second, you initially thought maybe this is a scam, but then you talked to Justin what was it from that? I mean, aside from him helping you realize that, hey, maybe you're not quite where you need to be on your accounting skills, but like, aside from that, like, what was it that made you kind of overcome that skepticism to the point where you're like, all right, I'm going to do this program? Because again, people are naturally very skeptical of these online programs, and I get it because there are a lot of crappy online programs out there.
Mhm.
Right? So like, what
Yeah.
made you able to, like, what helped you overcome that skepticism and really just take that leap of faith that, hey, this is something that's going to help me?
Yeah, so I feel like I definitely connected a lot with Justin. He was really easy to get along with. I felt like he was super relatable because I think he was in a similar position that I was in, but prior when he was recruiting, and so like that just like helped me like at least like build that bridge of trust.
Yeah.
I think definitely Justin was the bridge builder between me like accepting the help from Wall Street Mastermind. Honestly, that's what sold it, just that strategy session.
Yeah. And I mean, like, investing in this program, like, because you pay for this on your own also, right? If I'm not mistaken. Like,
Yeah,
a lot of people, they have their parents help them out, whatever, but you actually invested in it on your own. So it was not like an insignificant investment for you. And so for you to really hop into a program like this, you had to really have, I'm sure it wasn't a decision that you took lightly, and you had to really like have faith and not only bet on yourself, but bet on us and bet that we can deliver the outcome that you want for you, right? So like,
exactly.
was that like a pretty difficult decision, or you had to go back and forth a lot internally and struggle with it before you finally said, you know what the heck, I'm just gonna do this? Or like, what was that like for you?
Honestly, yeah, I was like, man, this is a lot of money. Not gonna lie, I was very thrown back, you know.
Yeah,
And like it was hard for me to make that decision because it was a lot of upfront money. But then I thought of it like you know, like as you're studying for your technicals, like money today is worth more than it is in the future, right? And so I was like, okay, if I invest this much money right now and I actually get an offer, like how much are my life earnings going to be? How much greater are my life earnings going to be as opposed to as if I'm an accountant, right?
right,
Rather than me waiting maybe 5 or 10 years from now and getting into banking by myself, but like that wasted opportunity cost.
right.
So like, that's kind of the way that I approached it, or at least justified it for myself. Is sure it's a lot of money right now, but in the long run, it'll be worth it.
Yeah, that's, I mean, basically what you're talking about right there is you have more of a like a investing mindset of like, you weren't looking at this as a cost, but you kind of thought about, yes, there's an upfront cost, but what is the potential return if I'm right about this investment? It's just kind of, it's no different than taking that same amount of money invested in the program and putting it into the stock market, or I don't know,
Exactly.
buying Bitcoin, or investing whatever else you could invest in. Like, you do that, and there's some risk involved. The risk being, what if I don't get an offer? But there's also a potential reward if you do get it, and you have to kind of weigh what you think the probability of each outcome is, and what's the upside and downside of each scenario. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I always felt like another thing that I forgot to mention is that like Wall Street Mastermind, like it's a community, right? And I felt like I was more motivated if there was a community behind me, backing me up on my goals, as opposed to just doing it by myself. I was more driven to take those extra steps, those late nights studying.
Right.
So that's
Right.
another thing that helped me stay accountable.
That's a really good point. Like, a lot of the one big thing that a lot of people miss when they think about Wall Street Mastermind is, yes, we coach every single one of our clients one-on-one, so it is like one-on-one coaching. But honestly, I think the community aspect of it cannot be. I mean, it's a big component of what this thing is about, right? Because if you think about just how much everyone's helping each other out, like every day I look at our Slack channel and I see like people asking all sorts of questions, and everyone's, a lot of times before I can even get to answering the questions, like other people are hopping in and answering the questions and teaching each other, right? Or like alumni that are already working at this place, like Daniel is jumping in and giving answers, and sometimes he gives an answer, I'm like, dude, this guy's explaining it better than I could have, so I'll just let him do the teaching.
No,
But
but like, it was good.
yeah, but like being a part of a community like that, where one, you're surrounded by like-minded individuals, and two, everyone is going through this same struggle together, so you don't feel like you're doing it alone. And then three, you're seeing all these examples around you of people who have gone through the same process as you, and they're now already on the other side, and they're working at these firms that you want to work at. Even without realizing it, I think what that does is subconsciously it gives you the belief that, hey, if I just trust the process and I just do what I'm supposed to do in here, I too will be on the other side of this with an offer that I want. And honestly, having that belief is super important, right? Because I think a lot of students, they go through the banking recruiting process and they're just, there's so much anxiety, and it's just such
Yeah.
it's such a tough process, and a lot of people aren't really confident that they can get the job. But if you're not confident because you're not in the right environment, or you don't have all these great examples around you of what's possible, um, that lack of confidence is going to shine through, or not shine through, but it's going to come out through all of your interactions with the bankers, whether it's through your networking conversations or when you're actually in the interviews. They can smell that from a mile away, and that's something that I don't think we talk about enough, right? It's just like you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. You know, there's
Yeah.
that thing. And I think that's why we call our community or our client base the wolf pack, right? It's like, it's, some people say it's kind of cheesy, but we say, you know, the strength of the wolf is in the pack. Like, I really feel like our clients are truly just a very collaborative, supportive community where everybody is trying to win together, and there's not this like cutthroat vibe of, oh, I'm not going to help you out because if Isaac gets a job, then that's one less job for me. Like, I don't get that at all in that group, which is really a beautiful thing, I think.
Totally.
Cool, man. So I guess maybe just one or two more questions for you, but I'm sure what people are wondering is like, so aside from the community, which you kind of already touched on, I think that's very unique. Like, what's so different about what you were doing in Wall Street Mastermind versus what you could have just done on your own? I mean, like, the number one criticism that we get, or even, you know, we mentioned Wall Street Oasis earlier, where you rest up, you thought it was a scam. I think the criticism is, hey, whatever they're charging you for, it's all stuff that you should already be able to do on your own, or like all you gotta do is go on Google or go online and do some research, and you'll be able to find all this stuff. So
Yeah.
there's no need to pay for, like, is there even a difference? Like, could you have just done all this on your own, or like, if not, like, why not?
Okay, like honestly, like there are a lot of things you can find on Google, and there are, maybe I could have done it on my own, but like it would have been 1,000,000, 2,000,000 times harder.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't know that even within like the behavioral component, there was a structure behind, like, tell me about yourself, tell me about your greatest strengths, your greatest weaknesses. I don't know that there was not like necessarily a right answer, but like a right structure behind that. And
Yeah.
so that was something that wasn't emphasized on Google or anywhere else online, because like pretty much all those guys emphasizes their technicals. And so that's one of the components that really stuck out to me about Wall Street Mastermind, is that it was a more holistic approach to approaching recruiting.
Right.
And just lastly, to finish up my thought on that, is I felt like once I had my first approach, like once I structured my answers for like my story, my weaknesses and my strengths, like I had people review it, edit it, transform it so that it gets better and better. So that's one of the added value behind this product, is that it helped me to improve my game at a much quicker pace than if I would have just done it by myself.
Right. So really what you're talking about there is not only providing you the structure for, like, you know, framework for how you should structure these answers, but also getting personalized feedback and tailoring the answer to you. Because to your point, there's not like a right or wrong answer. You know, everybody's answer is going to be different when it comes to telling your story and things like that. But it's about, but there's still a right structure. There's like, hey, these are the things that you should hit on. These are the things that bankers want to know. And how do you take what's unique to you and tailor it to that? And that's something that typically most of the information you read online, if you're, I don't know, reading a PDF guide or reading some article or watching YouTube videos, like all of that stuff is not personalized or tailored to you. It's just a generic cookie cutter thing where they're telling everybody that, hey, do this or do the exact same things as everyone else, right? Is that what you're saying? Like that's the main difference?
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, which is like, I think if I had to really sum up the difference between Wall Street Mastermind versus kind of doing all this on your own, I agree with you, dude. It's not like you can't get into investment banking on your, or like it's not possible to get into investment banking on your own. In fact, there are plenty of people that have gotten into banking without going through Wall Street Mastermind. Like we've only worked with, I think it's close to 400 students at this point, right? In the last 3 years. That's not a lot of people, right? So there's a lot of people that have done it without Wall Street Mastermind, but at the same time, that's not the point. There's also a lot more people that tried to do it on their own and didn't get in, right? And so at the end of the day, we will never say you can't get into banking without Wall Street Mastermind, but it's a probability issue, right? Like, are you the type of person who's just happy if you have a really low chance of breaking in as long as you have a chance? Or are you the type of person who's like, hey, this is my career, super important, and I want to maximize my chances. I want to take my best shot, or I want to make sure I'm finding every single resource that's out there that I can leverage. Kind of like the mentality you had by joining the IP club and using SEO and using Wall Street Mastermind. Like, there are a few things in life that's more important than your career, right? I would say your health is really important, and your relationships are important, but your career is right up there, probably in the top 3. And so it's not something to just take lightly. Like you wanna put everything you got into it. Like that would be my advice for people. Do you agree?
Yeah. And just to add to that, I feel like you also have to take into account like what type of bank do you want to place at, right? Like, because that's going to affect your trajectory, not like 3 years, 4 years from now. And right. So like, that was something that I wasn't even aware of. That's not something that my IB club mentions. Like, all they care about is that you place. But like, what I liked about Wall Street Mastermind is like, I can be selective of where I want to place, and like match the work ethic that I need to get to that bank. So that's something that another added value that I found from Wall Street Mastermind.
No, that's a great point, which is, sometimes people are like, well, I think I can get into banking on your own. And I'm like, yeah, you might be able to, or based on your profile, I think you have a good shot too. But also the other question that you just brought up is like, are you happy with just getting in? Because getting in can mean a lot of things. Like, where are you getting in at? Are you getting in a bulge bracket bank or elite boutique or a middle market or regional boutique? Like, there's a wide range of outcomes there, right? Or are you the type of person who says, I don't just want to get into banking, but I want to get into the best bank I could possibly get into. And whatever bank you think you could have gotten into on your own, by having more help, one thing is guaranteed. You're going to get a better outcome than whatever you would have gotten on your own, right? Like, could Isaac have gotten into banking on his own without us? Maybe, maybe not. We'll never know. It's like an alternate universe. But I'm pretty certain that because he was in the program, he was able to get, I want to say this is pretty much one of the best outcomes you could have possibly gotten. I don't know if you agree, but I'm looking at the bank. It's like, it's one of the best banks out there. In fact, it's probably a good segue. Like, do you want to tell people where you ended up getting an offer from?
I did. I got an offer from a Morgan Stanley in New York. So super excited about that.
Yeah. And is that, I mean, I know you go to BYU, which is not really on the East Coast, but like, is that a common, like, do a lot of people from your school go to Morgan Stanley in New York typically, or?
Not from BYU, no. I think the last person that placed at Morgan Stanley from BYU was in 2012.
Wow.
Before that, wasn't a whole lot. So I'm definitely the first after a long time.
Wow. So that was almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, I mean, there you go, right? It's like, this is what I mean by, look, even if you think you could get into banking on your own, again, we'll never know. But it's all about getting an outcome that is even better than what you could have expected had you done it on your own, right? And so that, like Isaac said, like we cannot overstate the importance of that, because this doesn't just affect, your first 2 years out of school. I know this is just your first job, but it affects the trajectory of your career. We're making the slope of your trajectory steeper, right? You're gonna have better exit opportunities. Like, a lot of people, they go into banking, they want to eventually go to the buy side. This could literally be the difference between going to, say, a mega fund versus maybe a middle market fund, right? And then the exit opportunities from there will be different as well. Like, it just continues to have a ripple effect all the way down the line for probably the rest of your career, right? And so that's why starting off on like your strongest footing, like that's probably one of the most important things you can do for your career, really, right? So look, last question for you, man. There's a lot of great stuff we've already talked about, but if you could give one piece of advice to students who are maybe in your or where you were, let's say 4 months ago, because we're in May now. Let's say like someone's listening to this interview in the future. They're also discover banking really late. They just found out they wanted to do it, and they're feeling behind. What is something that you wish people had told you back when you first started, like in hindsight, knowing what you know now, that would have really helped you a lot? Like, is there a piece of advice that you could give to people like that?
I mean, yeah, like I would say like, I don't know like how many like, let me rephrase it. At least when I got my first couple of super days, like I didn't do too good on those super days. And I remember a lot of people say, well, that's okay. Like, I guess that's it. Like, there's not a whole lot of opportunities. But I would just take each interview as a learning experience, right? I would definitely write down the questions that you got at each interview. And I would definitely internalize what you did good and then what you did bad. And then I would definitely write down, okay, this is where I can improve at. Then set up mock interviews with bankers from the banks I do want to work at to help work through those questions. That's something that I wish I would have done earlier on as opposed to like later on. It still worked out, but like definitely would have helped out towards the beginning of my recruiting process.
Yeah. So, in other words, treat every interview experience not just as an interview, but also as a learning opportunity.
Exactly.
To put in the reps and improve yourself as a candidate, and then just basically be persistent and keep at it, and then eventually something should work out, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's great advice, man. So guys, if you're listening to this and you are maybe just starting to recruit for banking, maybe you discovered that you want to do banking pretty late. It's not your fault, given how early investment banks recruit nowadays, to be honest. When I say late, I mean like maybe you're a sophomore and you just realize what you wanted to do after you graduate. It's funny when I say that, right? But you've realized late, but really it's so early compared to most other college students. But regardless, if you're feeling behind with the investment banking recruiting timeline, it's not your fault. It's totally normal. What's important is that you reach out and get the help that you need, because a lot can change in just 3 or 4 months if you have the right approach and if you have the right support system, right? So like Isaac went from realizing he wanted to do banking to 3 months later getting an offer from one of the best banks out there, right? Morgan Stanley is consistently in the top 3, right, in terms of the league tables and things like that. And so definitely, like if you're looking for that type of help, and if you have a similar mentality as Isaac, as in you're the type of person who believes in investing in yourself, and you're the type of person who does your own due diligence and your own research, and you don't just take what people say online at face value. You kind of want to go find out for yourself what's real and what's not. Then I want to invite you to book a free strategy session with our team. You can do that by going to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. The streets abbreviated to ST, so it's stmastermind.com/apply. And what we'll do is someone on our team will hop on with you. In Isaac's case, he spoke to Justin, like you said, but someone on our team will speak with you, learn more about your specific situation, what your recruiting goals are, what challenges you're currently having, figure out if we're even the best people to help you. And if we are, we'll talk about what that looks like. But if we're not, we'll at least give you some advice on what we think you should do instead, right? So either way, you'll walk away from the conversation with something valuable. But yeah, we look forward to speaking with all of you and helping you in any shape, way, shape, or form possible. And that'll be it. Isaac, I want to thank you again for taking the time to come on here and talk to us today and share your experience with people. Again, phenomenal outcome. Super happy for you, and
Appreciate it.
it's amazing that you're the first person since 2012. I didn't even know that, but that's amazing. I'm super happy for you, and obviously you worked hard. You deserve everything you got. And so I'm sure we'll be in touch. And don't be a stranger, and let us know what else we can help you with. And I look forward to seeing all the success you have in the future, man.
Thank you. Definitely appreciate it. We'll keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, that'll be it for this episode, and we'll be back with more of these in the future for you guys. Okay, talk soon. Bye.